Chapter 1. Ivanka's Mother, Ivana Trump. It was a cold day in February 1949 in a small town in Czechoslovakia. Snow covered the rooftops. The streets were quiet. Inside a modest home, a baby girl was born. Her name was Ivana Marie Zelnichkova. No one could have guessed that one day she would become a global icon. Ivana's childhood was simple, but her dreams were not. She grew up in a country under communist rule where opportunities were limited, and freedom felt like a distant dream. But Ivana was determined. She had a gift for skiing. At just 6 years old, she was already racing down snowy mountains, faster than anyone could believe. Her father encouraged her. He taught her discipline and the value of hard work. If you want something, he told her, you must fight for it. Skiing opened doors for Ivana. She competed in national tournaments and later joined a university where she studied physical education. But Ivana wanted more than just trophies. She dreamed of adventure, of seeing the world beyond her small town. And in the 1970s, her chance came. She traveled to Canada as part of a skiing exhibition team. Once she arrived, everything changed. In Canada, Ivana was introduced to a lifestyle she had only imagined. Glittering lights, fashion shows, luxurious restaurants. It was a different world. She worked as a model, appearing in magazines and on runways. People admired her beauty, but it was her confidence that set her apart. Ivana knew how to walk into a room and make everyone notice. Then, in 1976, she visited New York City for the first time. The towering skyscrapers, the busy streets, the glamorous parties. It was love at first sight. And it was at one of these parties that she met a young businessman named Donald Trump. Donald was tall, charming, and full of ambition. He came from a wealthy real estate family and was quickly making a name for himself in Manhattan. When he saw Ivana, he was captivated. They talked for hours that night. He admired her energy, her independence, and her European elegance. She admired his vision and boldness. They were a perfect match, or so it seemed. Their romance was fast and exciting. Donald would send flowers to her hotel room and take her to the city's most expensive restaurants. Within a year, they were married in a grand wedding ceremony. The media followed every detail, from her wedding dress to the guest list filled with celebrities. Together, they built an empire. Ivana became more than just Donald's wife. She was his partner, his advisor, and one of the driving forces behind the success of the Trump Organization. She managed hotels and helped design the interiors of some of New York's most iconic buildings. Ivana was my secret weapon, Donald would later say. She had a taste for luxury, but she also had a business mind. But life wasn't always perfect. The 1980s were a time of rapid success and growing challenges. Donald was expanding the business, making deals that carried risks. Ivana was juggling her role as a businesswoman and a mother. In 1981, she gave birth to their first child, Ivanka Trump. For Ivana, motherhood was a new chapter filled with joy and responsibility. She wanted to give Ivanka the best life possible. A life of education, culture, and opportunity. Yet, balancing her roles wasn't easy. There were moments of exhaustion, moments when she wondered if she could do it all. But she never showed weakness. "I had to be strong," Ivana later said in interviews. "I had to teach Ivanka to be strong, too." Behind the scenes, cracks were forming in her marriage. The media began reporting rumors of Donald's affairs. Ivana tried to stay focused on her children and her work, but the pressure was overwhelming. In 1990, after nearly 14 years of marriage, Ivana and Donald announced their divorce. The headlines were brutal. Paparazzi followed her everywhere, and journalists wrote about the details of their split as if it were a soap opera. But Ivana didn't let the divorce define her. She fought for her children and secured a significant settlement. With her head held high, she reinvented herself as a businesswoman. She launched her own fashion lines, wrote books, and became a role model for women around the world. "Don't get mad," she famously said. "Get everything." It was a statement of resilience and survival. Her influence on Ivanka was profound. Ivanka learned the importance of determination and grace from her mother. She saw how Ivana faced challenges with dignity, and it inspired her own rise in the business world. As Ivanka would later say, "My mother taught me how to be fearless." Ivana's life was a testament to the power of ambition and resilience. She showed that even a girl from a small town in Czechoslovakia could conquer the world. Her journey wasn't perfect, but it was inspiring. And in the end, her legacy lived on through her children. As the chapter closes, we leave Ivana standing on a New York City balcony, watching the skyline she helped build, reflecting on a life of love, loss, and success. Her story is proof that dreams, no matter how big, can come true. All you need is courage and the strength to never give up. Chapter 2: The Birth of Ivanka. Trump. It was a cold autumn day in New York City. The kind of day when the air is crisp and people rush down the sidewalks, their breath-forming clouds in front of them. The date? October 30th, 1981. Snowflakes floated down, covering the city in a soft, white blanket. Inside the Grand Lenox Hill Hospital on Manhattan's Upper East Side, something special was about to happen. Ivana Trump, elegant and composed, lay in her hospital bed. She had been preparing for this moment for months. The doctors and nurses moved quickly, speaking softly, checking monitors, and ensuring everything was ready. Ivana, with her blonde hair falling gently over her shoulders, smiled through the discomfort. She was strong. She had waited for this moment, a moment that would change her forever. Donald Trump stood nearby, wearing a tailored suit and a nervous expression. He wasn't used to waiting, or being out of control, but today, all he could do was wait. The minutes passed slowly. The clock on the wall ticked louder and louder. Suddenly, the sound of a baby's cry filled the room. Ivanka Marie Trump had arrived. The doctor lifted the tiny baby into Ivana's arms. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked at her daughter for the first time. "She's perfect," she whispered. Donald leaned in, his face softening as he touched the baby's small hand. It was a moment of joy, relief, and new beginnings. The nurse gently wrapped Ivanka in a soft blanket and placed a tiny pink hat on her head. Outside, the snow continued to fall. For Ivana, holding her daughter was a dream come true. She had always wanted a family. Now that dream was real. As she cradled Ivanka, she imagined the future. Her daughter's first steps, her first words, her first day at school. She would give Ivanka everything she needed to succeed: love, education, and discipline. In the days that followed, the news of Ivanka's birth spread through family and friends. The media, always watching the Trump family, soon picked up the story. Donald and Ivana's first child had been born, and people wanted to know everything. What would she be like? Would she grow up to follow in her father's footsteps? For now, Ivanka was just a baby, unaware of the world waiting outside. Back at their luxurious apartment in Trump Tower, life adjusted to having a newborn. The building was one of Donald's pride and joys, with its marble floors, golden decor, and views of the New York skyline. In the nursery, decorated in soft pinks and whites, Ivanka slept soundly. But not every night was peaceful. There were nights when she cried for hours, and Ivana would rock her gently by the window, whispering lullabies in Czech, the language of her own childhood. Donald was busy with his business empire, but he made time to hold Ivanka and watch her sleep. "She's going to be a star," he would say, and Ivana agreed. But they didn't want to rush her childhood. They wanted her to experience life's small pleasures first. Her first toy, her first laugh, her first time crawling across the plush carpet of their penthouse. As Ivanka grew, her world expanded. She was raised with the help of nannies, chefs, and tutors, but Ivana was always present. She believed that discipline was just as important as luxury. "I don't want her to be spoiled," Ivana often said. Ivanka was expected to follow rules, complete her homework, and respect others. While she had designer clothes and private lessons, she also had chores. If she wanted a new toy, she had to earn it. Her first birthday was a grand event. The apartment was decorated with balloons and flowers, and family friends arrived with gifts wrapped in shiny paper. Ivanka, with her chubby cheeks and wide eyes, sat in a high chair, laughing as she played with the ribbons on her presents. She didn't know that this glamorous life would soon become her normal. By the time Ivanka was old enough to speak, she already showed signs of being a curious, bright child. "Why is the sky blue?" she would ask her nanny. "Where does the moon go at night?" Ivana encouraged her curiosity, taking her to museums and parks, reading her bedtime stories about princesses, explorers, and inventors. When Ivanka turned 5, she attended the prestigious Chapin School, an all-girls private school known for its strict academic standards. On her first day, she clung to Ivana's hand. "Will you stay with me?" she asked. Ivana knelt down, looked her in the eyes, and smiled. You are strong, my little girl. You can do this. And she did. Ivanka made friends quickly and impressed her teachers with her enthusiasm. She loved art, history, and science. But she also loved learning about her father's business. When Donald took her on tours of construction sites, she watched in fascination as workers built skyscrapers from the ground up. Someday, I'll build something too, she told him. He smiled proudly. Life for Ivanka was not without its challenges. As she grew older, she began to see the pressures of being a Trump. The paparazzi followed her family. Reporters wrote about them constantly. And sometimes, her parents' arguments made headlines. But through it all, Ivanka remained focused. Her mother's advice stayed with her. Be tough, but be kind. Ivanka's birth had brought joy to her parents, but it had also marked the start of something much bigger, a journey filled with lessons, challenges, and triumphs. As the snow melted that winter and spring arrived in New York, the little girl who had entered the world on a snowy October day began to take her first steps. Steps that would eventually lead her to becoming one of the most recognizable women in the world. Chapter 3. Ivanka's Studies and Ambition. Ivanka Trump always seemed to have it all: beauty, charm, and intelligence. But behind the glamorous image, there was something more, an ambition that burned brightly inside her. She wasn't content to live in her father's shadow. No, Ivanka had her own dreams, and she wasn't afraid to chase them. Her journey began at the Chapin School in New York City. It was an all-girls school known for its high standards and strict discipline. The classrooms were filled with bright young minds, and competition was fierce. Ivanka was just 5 years old when she first stepped inside the school's grand doors. She wore a navy blue uniform and carried a small backpack. She looked confident, but inside, she was nervous. The teachers were demanding, but Ivanka liked the challenge. She was a quick learner and had a natural curiosity. Math, history, literature. She enjoyed them all. But her favorite moments were outside the classroom. During recess, she played games with her friends and dreamed about the future. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" one of her classmates asked. Ivanka thought for a moment and smiled. "Maybe a fashion designer or an architect. I want to create things." At home, her mother, Ivana, made sure education came first. Homework had to be done before any fun. "Discipline is important," Ivana told her daughter. "If you work hard now, you'll have a good life later." Ivanka listened, and those words stayed with her. By the time she was 15, she had transferred to Choate Rosemary Hall, an elite boarding school in Connecticut. The change was difficult at first. She missed her family and the familiar sights of New York. But Choate gave her something new: independence. The school's sprawling campus, with its old brick buildings and peaceful gardens, was both beautiful and intimidating. Ivanka knew she had to prove herself. At Choate, she balanced academics with social life. She studied late at night, often under the glow of a small lamp surrounded by textbooks. But she also made time for friendships and extracurricular activities. She played tennis, attended school dances, and even tried her hand at acting in school plays. But no matter what she did, she remained focused on one thing: preparing for her future. When Ivanka wasn't at school, she explored other interests. She loved fashion and worked as a model during summer breaks. At 16, she appeared on the cover of 17 magazine. The photo shoot, with bright lights and glamorous outfits, was thrilling. For a moment, she thought modeling might be her career, but deep down, she knew it wasn't enough. "I need something more," she said to herself. She wanted to create, lead, and build something lasting. After graduating from Choate, Ivanka made a bold decision. She would follow her father's footsteps into the world of business. But first, she needed the right education. She enrolled at Georgetown University, where she studied for 2 years. It was a time of growth and self-discovery. She joined clubs, met new friends, and explored Washington, D.C.'s museums and historic landmarks. But her heart was still tied to New York and the business world waiting for her. So, after 2 years at Georgetown, she transferred to the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. Wharton was famous for producing some of the world's best entrepreneurs, including her father, Donald Trump. Ivanka felt both excited and nervous. Could she live up to the family name? Could she carve out her own legacy? The classes at Wharton were intense. Ivanka studied economics, finance, and marketing. She spent hours in the library, reviewing case studies and solving complex business problems. She wasn't afraid to ask questions or challenge ideas. Professors admired her dedication. Classmates noticed her drive. She wasn't just the daughter of a billionaire. She was someone with vision. But studying wasn't the only thing that shaped Ivanka's ambitions. She took internships that gave her real-world experience. One summer, she worked for Forest City Enterprises, a major real estate company. She learned how to negotiate deals, inspect properties, and manage budgets. She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty, walking through construction sites in hard hats and boots. "This is what I want to do," she thought. "I want to build." During another internship, she worked in the fashion industry. She learned about branding, marketing, and product design. It was there that she realized she could combine her two passions, business and creativity. Why not create a brand of my own someday, she wondered. This idea would later become a reality. In 2004, Ivanka graduated from Wharton with honors. She was proud, and so were her parents. At the graduation ceremony, Ivanka hugged her mother and father tightly. She had proven that she could succeed on her own terms. But her journey was far from over. After graduation, she joined the Trump Organization, her father's real estate company. But she wasn't given any special treatment. Donald made sure she worked hard for every promotion. She started by learning the basics: contracts, negotiations, and project management. Her first major project was transforming an old building into a luxury hotel. It was a test, and she passed it with flying colors. The project was a success, and Donald knew he could trust her with bigger responsibilities. Ivanka's studies and experiences had shaped her into a leader. She had taken risks, faced challenges, and discovered her strengths. She wasn't just following her father's path. She was creating her own. Her ambition wasn't just about success. It was about making a lasting impact. As she looked out the window of her office on the 26th floor of Trump Tower, the New York skyline stretched before her. Chapter 4. Ivanka's marriage to Jared Kushner. In the heart of New York City, amidst its skyscrapers and shining lights, a love story was quietly beginning. It wasn't an ordinary romance. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner were both young, ambitious, and part of powerful families. When their worlds collided, sparks flew. It all started in 2007. Ivanka was building her career at the Trump Organization, managing major real estate projects. She was known for her confidence and elegance. Jared Kushner, on the other hand, was running his family's real estate company, Kushner Companies. He was calm, thoughtful, and focused. They met through mutual friends. At first, it seemed like business as usual, but soon it became clear. This was something special. Their first date was simple but meaningful. They talked for hours, sharing stories about their lives and dreams. Ivanka was impressed by Jared's intelligence and kindness. He's different, she thought. Jared admired Ivanka's determination and charm. She's not like anyone I've ever met, he said to a friend. But their relationship wasn't easy from the start. Ivanka was not Jewish, and Jared's family followed the Jewish faith. His parents had strong opinions about who Jared should marry. There was tension, and at one point, they even broke up. For months, they were apart, wondering if their love could survive the challenges. It was a painful time for both of them. Then, something changed. Ivanka realized how much Jared meant to her. She made a decision that would change her life. She began studying Judaism, meeting with rabbis, and learning about the religion's values. She didn't take the decision lightly. This isn't just for Jared, she told a friend. It's for me too. In 2009, after months of study, Ivanka officially converted to Judaism. It was a turning point in their relationship and a sign of her dedication. Jared's family welcomed her with open arms. Their relationship, once full of uncertainty, became stronger than ever. In July 2009, during a romantic vacation, Jared proposed. The moment was intimate and emotional. Ivanka said yes, tears of joy streaming down her face. She couldn't wait to begin the next chapter of her life with him. Their wedding, held in October 2009, was nothing short of spectacular. The ceremony took place at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey. Over 500 guests attended, including celebrities, politicians, and business leaders. Ivanka wore a custom-made Vera Wang gown with lace sleeves and a flowing skirt. She looked like a princess. Jared, in a classic black tuxedo, couldn't take his eyes off her. As they exchanged vows, the room was filled with love and excitement. The reception was full of laughter, music, and speeches. Donald Trump gave a heartfelt speech about his daughter. "She's a remarkable woman," he said, "and I know Jared will take good care of her." Ivana Trump, her mother, watched proudly, remembering the little girl she had raised to be strong and independent. It was a night of celebration, a new beginning for the couple. After the wedding, Ivanka and Jared settled into their life together in New York. They were busy with their careers, but they always made time for each other. Their shared values, hard work, family, and faith, helped them navigate life's challenges. In 2011, they welcomed their first child, a daughter named Arabella. Holding her baby in her arms, Ivanka felt a wave of emotion. "This is the happiest I've ever been," she said. In the years that followed, their family grew. They had 2 more children, Joseph, born in 2013, and Theodore, born in 2016. Ivanka embraced motherhood while continuing her role at the Trump Organization. She often spoke about the balance between work and family. "It's not easy," she admitted, "but Jared and I support each other. That's what makes it work." Then, in 2016, their lives took a dramatic turn. Donald Trump announced his candidacy for president, and everything changed. Jared became one of Trump's closest advisors, managing the campaign's strategy and data. Ivanka took on a public role, speaking at rallies and supporting her father's policies. Their marriage was tested in new ways. They faced media scrutiny, political pressure, and long hours apart. But through it all, they remained united. When Trump won the presidency, Jared and Ivanka moved to Washington, D.C. It wasn't an easy decision. They had to leave their home, their friends, and their familiar routines, but they saw it as an opportunity to serve the country. Jared was appointed as a senior advisor to the president, focusing on foreign policy and innovation. Ivanka became an advisor as well, working on women's issues, job creation, and family policies. Their life in Washington was demanding. They attended meetings at the White House, traveled abroad, and faced constant criticism from the media. But they leaned on each other for support. At night, after long days of work, they would sit together and talk about their hopes for the future. "As long as we have each other," Ivanka once said, "we can get through anything." In 2021, after Trump's presidency ended, Ivanka and Jared returned to private life. They moved to Florida, seeking a quieter, more peaceful environment for their family. But their ambition hadn't faded. Jared began working on his investment firm, while Ivanka focused on philanthropy and raising their children. They reflected on their journey, the challenges, the victories, and the lessons they had learned along the way. Their love story was more than just romance. It was a partnership built on respect, understanding, and shared goals. Through every obstacle, they had stayed committed to each other. Ivanka once described Jared as her rock, the person who kept her grounded when life felt overwhelming. And as the sun set over their Florida home, Ivanka and Jared watched their children play in the garden. Their story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And with each new chapter, they knew they would face it together, stronger than ever. Chapter 5. Ivanka's Life in the Spotlight. Ivanka Trump was no stranger to the spotlight. From a young age, cameras followed her every move. Paparazzi captured her family on vacations, at parties, and even outside their home. Growing up as Donald Trump's daughter meant living under constant attention, but Ivanka learned to handle it. She knew how to smile for the camera, wave politely, and keep her composure. However, the spotlight wasn't always kind. As a teenager, she sometimes felt overwhelmed. Reporters wrote stories about her family's wealth, her father's business deals, and even her private life. "Why do they care so much about us?" she once asked her mother, Ivana. Her mother smiled and said, "Because we are different, but don't let it change who you are." Those words stayed with Ivanka. In her early 20s, Ivanka built a successful career in fashion and real estate. She was admired for her style and elegance. Fashion magazines featured her on their covers. She walked the red carpet at glamorous events. Interviews focused on her achievements, but they also asked questions about her family. She answered carefully, always protecting their reputation. "The media is a game," she told a friend. "You have to play it wisely." Everything changed in 2016. When Donald Trump announced he was running for president, the spotlight on Ivanka intensified. Reporters followed her everywhere. They wanted to know how she felt about her father's campaign. At first, she stayed quiet, avoiding political questions. But as the campaign gained momentum, Ivanka stepped into the public eye with confidence. She gave speeches, attended rallies, and stood proudly next to her father. One of her most memorable moments came during the Republican National Convention. Dressed in a simple yet elegant dress, she walked onto the stage. The audience waited in silence. Then she spoke. Her voice was calm, her words carefully chosen. She described her father as a leader who cared about working families and wanted to make America great again. The crowd cheered. Television networks broadcast her speech across the country. It was a turning point. Ivanka was no longer just a businesswoman. She had become a political figure. But with fame came criticism. Some people admired her grace and intelligence. Others questioned her role in politics. Was she qualified? Did she have too much influence? Ivanka faced these questions head-on. She didn't let the negativity affect her. "I know who I am," she said in an interview. "I focus on what I can control, and I let the rest go." When Donald Trump won the presidency, Ivanka's life changed dramatically. She and her husband, Jared Kushner, moved to Washington, D.C. They settled into a new home close to the White House. It wasn't easy leaving New York, but Ivanka saw this as an opportunity to make a difference. Her role as an advisor to the president came with great responsibility. She worked on issues related to job creation, women's empowerment, and family leave policies. But her position also placed her under intense public scrutiny. The media often watched her every move. What she wore, where she went, and what she said became daily news. Some headlines were positive, others were harsh. Ivanka remained calm, but there were moments of doubt. At night, when the house was quiet, she sometimes wondered if she was doing the right thing. "Am I making a difference?" she asked Jared. He reassured her. "You're doing more than you think," he said. His support gave her strength. There were emotional moments too. One of the toughest came during a 2018 interview when a reporter asked her about the family separations at the U.S.-Mexico border. Ivanka's face tightened. She paused before answering. "As a mother, it was a very difficult moment for me," she admitted. She explained that she had spoken to her father privately and pushed for changes. It was a rare glimpse of vulnerability, a moment when her polished exterior cracked just a little. Behind the scenes, Ivanka worked hard to balance her public and private lives. She woke up early to spend time with her children before heading to the White House. She helped them with homework, packed their lunches, and kissed them goodbye. "My kids keep me grounded," she often said. At work, she attended meetings, met with foreign leaders, and presented policy ideas to her father. Every day was a challenge, but she thrived on it. Despite her busy schedule, Ivanka knew the importance of self-care. She practiced yoga, meditated, and stayed connected with close friends. "You can't pour from an empty cup," she once told a reporter. Her ability to balance work, family, and personal well-being impressed many. But she didn't pretend it was easy. "Some days I feel like I'm running on empty," she admitted. "But then I remember why I'm doing this." As her father's presidency continued, Ivanka faced more challenges. Critics accused her of being too involved in political matters. Others said she wasn't involved enough, but she stayed focused on her goals. She helped push for paid family leave and other policies that she believed would help working parents. Her successes weren't always recognized, but that didn't stop her. "You don't need applause to do the right thing," she said. When Donald Trump's presidency ended in 2021, Ivanka and her family moved to Florida. The spotlight dimmed, but it never fully disappeared. People still wanted to know what was next for her. Would she return to business? Would she run for office? Ivanka didn't rush to answer those questions. Instead, she focused on her family and reflected on the whirlwind years behind her. In a quiet moment by the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore, Ivanka thought about everything she had experienced. The highs and lows, the applause and criticism, the moments of doubt, and the moments of triumph. She knew that life would always have challenges, but she was ready. The spotlight had shaped her, but it hadn't defined her. Her strength, resilience, and ambition were what truly mattered. With a deep breath, she smiled. The future was still unwritten, and she was ready to turn the page. Before we begin, Chapter 6, a quick note for our listeners. You're currently listening to this audiobook on Woo English. Remember, this content is specially made for Woo English listeners only. If you're hearing it on any other channel, it may be a violation of Woo English's rights. Please ensure you're tuned into the right source to fully enjoy and respect this audiobook journey. Now, let's continue the story. Chapter 6. Tiffany's Mother, Marla Maples. In the warm, rolling hills of Cohutta, Georgia, a small town filled with charm and tradition, A girl named Marla Maples grew up dreaming of something bigger. She wasn't content with quiet country life. From a young age, Marla wanted the world to notice her. She was tall, blonde, and full of energy. People often said she had star quality, and they were right. As a teenager, Marla competed in beauty pageants. She had a dazzling smile and confidence that lit up the stage. In 1983, she won the title of Miss Resaca Beach Poster Girl, and her success continued from there. She wasn't just beautiful. She had ambition. After finishing school, Marla packed her bags and moved to New York City. The city was loud, fast, and full of opportunities. Marla was ready to take on the challenge. In the late 1980s, her life took a dramatic turn. At a charity event, she met Donald Trump, a successful businessman already famous for his real estate empire. Marla was in her 20s, with dreams of acting and modeling. Donald was married to Ivana Trump at the time, but something sparked between him and Marla. Their relationship quickly became a secret, hidden from the public eye. But secrets don't last long in New York City, especially when they involve a man like Donald Trump. By the early 1990s, the press had uncovered their romance. The story was everywhere, on magazine covers, TV shows, and front pages of newspapers. Reporters followed them, snapping photos at restaurants, parties, and even on the beach. Marla became known as the Other Woman, a title she didn't ask for but couldn't escape. In 1993, Marla's life changed again. She discovered she was pregnant. The news shocked the media, but for Marla, it was personal. She was about to become a mother, and everything else faded into the background. On October 13th, 1993, she gave birth to a baby girl named Tiffany Ariana Trump. Marla held her daughter in her arms, tears of joy and fear mixing together. "I promise to protect you," she whispered. Tiffany's birth brought Marla a new purpose. Raising Tiffany wasn't easy. Marla and Donald had a turbulent relationship. Although they married 2 months after Tiffany's birth, their union was far from perfect. The media constantly reported on their ups and downs. By 1997, they divorced, and Marla was left to raise Tiffany as a single mother. But she didn't complain. Instead, she focused on giving her daughter the love and stability she needed. Unlike Ivanka, who grew up in the spotlight of Trump Tower, Tiffany had a different childhood. Marla chose to raise her daughter primarily in California, far from the chaos of New York's paparazzi. They lived in a cozy home near the beach, where Tiffany could play, explore, and enjoy a quieter life. "I wanted her to have a normal childhood," Marla later said. She enrolled Tiffany in the Viewpoint School, a private institution known for its strong academics and arts programs. Marla wasn't just a mother. She was Tiffany's guide and protector. She taught her daughter to value kindness, gratitude, and spirituality. Marla was deeply spiritual herself, often meditating and practicing yoga. She shared these habits with Tiffany, teaching her to stay grounded. "It doesn't matter how much money you have," Marla would say. "What matters is how you treat people." But Marla also encouraged Tiffany's creativity. She enrolled her in singing lessons, acting classes, and dance programs. Tiffany had a passion for music and loved to sing. In 2011, at the age of 18, she even released a pop song called Like a Bird. Although the song didn't become a major hit, it showed her courage to express herself. Marla was proud. "It's not about fame," she told Tiffany. "It's about finding your voice." While Marla raised Tiffany in a laid-back environment, she made sure her daughter knew her father. Despite the distance, Donald remained part of Tiffany's life. She visited him in New York during holidays and school breaks. Marla ensured that Tiffany maintained a relationship with her half-siblings, Ivanka, Eric, and Donald Jr. But the bond between Tiffany and Ivanka was unique. Although they had different mothers and different upbringings, they grew close over time. As Tiffany grew older, Marla continued to be her rock. When Tiffany decided to attend the University of Pennsylvania, following in her father's footsteps, Marla supported her wholeheartedly. She helped her pack, hugged her tightly, and reminded her to stay true to herself. "You don't have to be anyone else," she said. "You're enough just the way you are." University life was a big change for Tiffany. She entered a world of high expectations, surrounded by wealthy, ambitious students. But Marla's teaching stayed with her. Tiffany worked hard, earning a degree in sociology and law. She didn't seek the spotlight, but when the media mentioned her, she handled it with grace, just like her mother had taught her. Marla's influence went beyond words. She showed Tiffany how to face challenges with dignity. Even when reporters wrote negative stories about their family, Marla remained calm. "The truth always wins," she told Tiffany. She encouraged her daughter to rise above criticism and focus on her goals. Today, Marla Maples continues to be a supportive presence in Tiffany's life. Although Marla's romance with Donald Trump ended long ago, her role as a mother remains strong. She watches proudly as Tiffany navigates adulthood, confident that her daughter is ready for whatever comes next. Marla's story is more than a tale of beauty and fame. It's a story of resilience, love, and determination. She gave Tiffany more than a life of privilege. She gave her strength, values, and the courage to follow her own path. As Marla once said, success isn't about where you come from. It's about where you're going. And Tiffany, with her mother's guidance, is ready to go far. Chapter 7. The Birth of Tiffany Trump. It was a warm autumn day in Palm Beach, Florida. The ocean breeze was gentle, and the palm trees swayed lazily under the golden sun. Inside the luxurious St. Mary's Medical Center, the air was filled with excitement and a bit of tension. Marla Maples, with her blonde hair swept back and a calm expression, lay in her hospital bed. She knew that this day would change her life forever. Nearby, Donald Trump paced back and forth, glancing at the clock on the wall. It was October 13th, 1993, and his world was about to shift. He had built skyscrapers, managed billion-dollar deals, and faced the toughest negotiations. But this moment was different. This was the birth of his second daughter, This was personal. Finally, after hours of waiting, the sound of a baby's cry filled the room. The doctor smiled and announced, "It's a girl." Marla's eyes filled with tears as the nurse placed the baby in her arms. She was small, with soft cheeks and bright eyes. Marla gently kissed her forehead and whispered, "Tiffany." Donald leaned over, touching the baby's tiny hand. His expression softened, and for a moment, the outside world didn't exist. But outside that hospital, the world was very aware of Tiffany's birth. The media had been following Marla and Donald's relationship for years. Reporters had camped outside the hospital waiting for the news. When word spread that Tiffany Ariana Trump had been born, the headlines exploded. Trump's new baby arrives. A new addition to the Trump dynasty. Cameras flashed, and reporters speculated about what this meant for Donald's future. And Marla's. Tiffany's birth came during a complicated time. Donald and Marla had married just 2 months earlier, in a wedding that was both glamorous and controversial. Their relationship had been the subject of gossip since the beginning. Some saw them as a perfect couple. Others saw them as a whirlwind romance destined for drama. And now, with Tiffany's arrival, the spotlight grew even brighter. Back at their mansion in Palm Beach, Marla focused on motherhood. She decorated Tiffany's nursery with soft pinks and whites, filling it with plush toys and delicate curtains. The crib sat near a large window, where sunlight streamed in each morning. Marla loved sitting by that window, rocking Tiffany to sleep as the sound of waves drifted through the air. "This is our little paradise," she often said. But life wasn't as peaceful as it seemed. Donald was busy managing his business empire. He was constantly traveling between New York, Florida, and other cities, leaving Marla to care for Tiffany on her own. Although he loved his daughter, Donald's demanding schedule meant he wasn't always around. Marla made sure Tiffany felt loved, even when her father wasn't there. When Tiffany was a baby, the press continued to follow the family's every move. Photographers snapped pictures of her first outings in a stroller, her visits to the beach, and even her trips to the park. Marla tried to shield her daughter from the attention, but it wasn't always possible. "This is your life now," Marla told herself. "You have to protect her." As Tiffany grew, her personality began to shine. She was curious and playful, always reaching for new toys and babbling happily. By the time she could walk, she loved exploring the garden outside their home. Marla would hold her hand as they walked along the beach, collecting seashells and listening to the waves. "Look, Mommy," Tiffany would say, holding up a shell with wide eyes. These small moments were precious to Marla. They were moments of peace in a life filled with headlines and cameras. When Tiffany turned 4, Marla made a big decision. She moved to California to give Tiffany a quieter, more stable environment. The move wasn't easy. It meant leaving behind the luxury of Palm Beach and the familiarity of life on the East Coast. But Marla knew it was the right choice. "I want her to grow up as a normal kid," she told friends. "I don't want her to feel the pressure of being a Trump." In California, Tiffany's early years were different from her half-siblings' experiences in New York. She didn't grow up in Trump Tower or attend high society events. Instead, she played with friends at the park, took piano lessons, and went to birthday parties like any other child. Marla enrolled her in the Viewpoint School, where she could focus on her studies and develop her creativity. Tiffany loved singing and dancing, often putting on little performances for her mother at home. But even in California, Tiffany couldn't fully escape her famous last name. When she visited New York to see her father, the media often covered their outings. Donald would take her to his office in Trump Tower, where she would sit on his lap and pretend to help him work. "She's going to be a star," Donald once joked to a reporter. But Tiffany wasn't interested in fame, not yet at least. For now, she just wanted to be a kid. Despite the distance between California and New York, Donald and Tiffany maintained a relationship. He called her often, and they spent holidays together. Marla encouraged their bond, knowing how important it was for Tiffany to feel connected to her father. "No matter what," Marla told her daughter, "he will always love you." By the time Tiffany entered her teenage years, she had grown into a bright and confident young woman. Her early years, spent between the quiet beaches of California and the bustling streets of New York, had given her a unique perspective on life. She had learned to navigate two very different worlds. And although she was the daughter of one of the most famous men in the world, she had also experienced the simple joys of childhood. Looking back, Marla felt proud of the choices she had made. Tiffany had grown up surrounded by love, adventure, and valuable lessons. Her birth had been a headline, but her life was much more than that. It was a story of growth, resilience, and the special bond between a mother and daughter. As Marla watched Tiffany prepare for her next chapter, college, she couldn't help but smile. The little girl who had once collected seashells by the beach was now ready to take on the world. Chapter 8. Tiffany's Studies and Hidden Potential. Tiffany Trump wasn't always in the spotlight. While her half-sister Ivanka built a high-profile career, Tiffany took a quieter path. But behind her soft-spoken personality was a young woman with dreams, ambition, and hidden potential just waiting to shine. Her journey began in California, at the prestigious Viewpoint School. Located in the hills of Calabasas, the school had sprawling fields, modern classrooms, and plenty of opportunities for students to explore their interests. Tiffany loved it there. She made friends easily and excelled in her studies. Her favorite subjects were literature, history, and science, but she also had a creative side. Tiffany had a passion for music. From a young age, she took piano lessons and learned to sing. Marla Maples encouraged her creativity, enrolling her in music and dance programs. At home, Tiffany would often perform mini-concerts for her mother. "Sing your favorite song," Marla would say, and Tiffany would belt out a tune with a bright smile. But music wasn't just a hobby for her. It was a way to express herself. In 2011, at the age of 18, Tiffany released a pop single called "Like a Bird." It was a bold move, one that surprised many people. The song had catchy lyrics and a fun beat. "Are you nervous?" Marla asked before the song's release. Tiffany nodded. "A little," she admitted. But when the song hit streaming platforms, she felt proud. It didn't become a major hit, but that didn't matter. For Tiffany, it was a step toward exploring who she was. Despite her love for music, Tiffany didn't let it distract her from school. She remained focused on academics, understanding that education was key to her future. After graduating from Viewpoint, she faced an important decision. Where should she go to college? Donald Trump encouraged her to consider the University of Pennsylvania, the same school he and Ivanka had attended. But Tiffany wanted to forge her own path, at least for a while. She chose to attend Georgetown University, located in Washington, D.C. The campus, with its historic buildings and bustling student life, was a perfect fit for her. Georgetown was known for its strong programs in politics, law, and international affairs. Tiffany majored in sociology with a focus on law and public policy. She was fascinated by how society worked and wanted to understand the rules that shaped people's lives. At Georgetown, Tiffany kept a low profile. She wasn't interested in drawing attention to herself. Instead, she worked hard, studying late into the night and participating in class discussions. Her professors described her as curious and thoughtful. She asked questions that went beyond the surface, digging deeper into topics like inequality, human rights, and justice. But life as a student wasn't all about books and exams. Tiffany also joined clubs and made new friends. She attended campus events, explored local cafes, and even volunteered for community projects. Her kind and approachable nature made her popular among classmates, but she remained grounded. "Stay humble," her mother always told her. "That's the key to success." One summer, Tiffany interned at a law firm in New York City. She spent her days reviewing case files, attending meetings, and learning about legal procedures. It was a challenging experience, but she loved it. The fast-paced environment excited her, and she realized that a career in law might be in her future. "I can make a difference," she thought. "I can help people." At the same time, Tiffany didn't forget about her creative side. In her free time, she continued to write music and play the piano. Music remained an important part of her life, even as she pursued her academic goals. It gave her balance, a way to relax and reconnect with herself. In 2016, during her father's presidential campaign, Tiffany stepped into the public eye once again. She delivered a speech at the Republican National Convention, sharing personal stories about Donald Trump as a father. Standing on the stage with bright lights shining down on her, she felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "You've got this," she whispered to herself. Her speech was simple and heartfelt, and it resonated with many viewers. For some, it was the first time they truly saw Tiffany as more than just the youngest Trump daughter. Back at Georgetown, Tiffany continued to focus on her studies, but the experience of speaking on such a large platform had given her a new sense of confidence. She realized that she could handle pressure and public attention if she needed to. Still, she remained focused on her goal, finishing her degree. By 2020, Tiffany had earned her bachelor's degree in sociology. But she wasn't done yet. She decided to pursue her passion for law even further by enrolling in Georgetown Law School. This decision marked a major turning point in her life. Law school was intense, filled with long reading assignments, challenging exams, and debates on legal cases. But Tiffany thrived in the environment. She loved the challenge. Throughout her studies, she drew inspiration from both her parents. From Marla, she learned the importance of staying true to herself and embracing creativity. From Donald, she learned how to stay determined and push forward, even when things got tough. These lessons shaped her into the person she was becoming, ambitious, kind, and full of potential. In her final year of law school, Tiffany began considering how she could use her degree. Would she work at a prestigious law firm, or perhaps join an organization focused on social justice? She hadn't decided yet, but one thing was clear. She wanted to make a positive impact. Looking back on her journey, Tiffany saw how far she had come. From singing songs in her living room to studying complex legal theories, she had grown into a woman ready to take on the world. Her path had been different from her siblings, but that's what made it special. She had found her own voice, one that combined creativity, intellect, and compassion. As she prepared for graduation, Tiffany smiled at the thought of what lay ahead. The future was full of possibilities, and she was ready to explore them. With her hidden potential no longer hidden, she knew the best was yet to come. Chapter 9. Tiffany's Personal Life and Relationships. Love stories aren't just for fairy tales, and Tiffany Trump's romance is proof of that. Her life may seem like a mix of wealth and privilege, but her heart is what makes her story relatable. She had dreams of love, just like anyone else. And one day, she found it in a way that surprised even her. Tiffany's dating life had always been private. She wasn't the type to make headlines for relationships. While Ivanka was often seen with high-profile businessmen and attending glamorous events, Tiffany preferred a quieter approach. She focused on her studies, friendships, and creative pursuits. But in 2018, everything changed. It all started in Greece. Tiffany was on vacation with friends, enjoying the sun, the sea, and the carefree energy of summer. That's when she met Michael Boulos, a young, successful businessman. Michael wasn't just any man. He came from a wealthy and respected family in Nigeria, known for their investments in construction and trading. He was charming, polite, and down to earth. The moment they met, sparks flew. Their connection was instant. They laughed, shared stories, and explored the beautiful Greek islands together. For Tiffany, this wasn't just another summer fling. There was something different about Michael. He treated her with kindness and respect, and he admired her ambition. "He understands me," she told a close friend. "He doesn't see me as just a trump." But their relationship wasn't always easy. With Tiffany living in the United States and Michael often traveling between Nigeria and London, distance became a challenge. They spent weeks apart, relying on phone calls and video chats to stay connected. Some nights, they talked for hours about their dreams, fears, and plans for the future. "It's not the same as being together," Tiffany admitted, "but if it's real, we'll make it work." And they did. Michael often flew to the U.S. to spend time with Tiffany. They were spotted together at family events, formal dinners, and even on casual outings in New York City. But they kept their relationship relatively low-key. Unlike her older sister Ivanka, who had a highly publicized marriage to Jared Kushner, Tiffany preferred to keep things more private. She wasn't looking for attention. She was looking for love. In January 2021, Tiffany and Michael made a big announcement. On the last day of Donald Trump's presidency, Tiffany shared a photo on Instagram of herself and Michael standing in the White House gardens. Her hand sparkled with a stunning diamond ring. They were engaged. "It was the happiest day of my life," Tiffany wrote. Friends, family, and fans from around the world sent their congratulations. Social media was buzzing with excitement. The proposal itself was like something out of a fairy tale. Michael had planned it perfectly. He wanted the moment to be meaningful, so he chose the White House as the backdrop, a place that represented Tiffany's family history and her journey. He got down on one knee, looked into her eyes, and asked her to marry him. Tears of joy filled Tiffany's eyes as she said, "Yes." The moment was captured in photos, but the emotion was real. With the engagement came questions. What role would Michael play in Tiffany's future? Would they live in the U.S. or abroad? Would Tiffany follow in her father's political footsteps, or would she take a different path? For now, the couple seemed content focusing on their love and planning their wedding. But one thing was clear. Michael supported Tiffany's dreams, whatever they might be. Unlike Ivanka and Jared, who had worked closely with Donald Trump during his presidency, Tiffany and Michael stayed mostly out of the political spotlight. They were building their life together on their terms. Tiffany admired her sister's ability to balance family and career, but she wanted a life that reflected her own passions and interests. Michael wasn't just her partner, he was her biggest supporter. He encouraged her as she completed law school and helped her navigate life in the public eye. When critics made harsh comments about her family, Michael reminded her to stay focused on what mattered. "You're more than a last name," he often told her. "You're Tiffany." Their relationship was built on mutual respect and shared values. While they both came from wealthy families, they didn't take their privilege for granted. They often discussed how they could use their resources to help others. Tiffany, inspired by her studies in law and public policy, hoped to one day work on projects that promoted social justice and equality. Michael, with his background in international business, was equally passionate about making a difference. Their love story was different from Ivanka and Jared's in many ways. Ivanka had entered marriage with the weight of her family's business and political legacy. She and Jared became key players in Donald Trump's presidency. But Tiffany's relationship with Michael was more relaxed. They weren't building a political empire. They were building a life filled with love, travel, and shared dreams. In 2022, the couple spent time traveling between Europe and the U.S. They explored new cities, attended family gatherings, and celebrated milestones together. Every trip brought new memories. Whether they were walking along the streets of Paris or relaxing on a beach in the Caribbean, they cherished the moments they shared. As Tiffany looked ahead to her future, she felt grateful for the journey that had brought her to this point. She had grown up in the shadow of a famous family, but she had found her own light. With Michael by her side, she knew that her potential was limitless. Their love wasn't about the glitz and glamour of their last names. It was about the connection they had built, one step at a time. In the end, Tiffany's love story wasn't a fairy tale. It was real. It had challenges, surprises, and moments of doubt. But it also had hope, growth, and joy. And as Tiffany walked hand in hand with Michael into the next chapter of her life, she knew that her best moments were still ahead. Chapter 10. Key Milestones and Turning Points. Every life has its defining moments, events that change the way we think, feel, and live. For Ivanka Trump and Tiffany Trump, those moments didn't just shape their futures, they revealed who they truly were. Their journeys were different, but each milestone taught them lessons that would last a lifetime. Let's begin with Ivanka, the eldest daughter. From an early age, she showed signs of ambition. But her first major milestone didn't happen in a classroom or office. It happened on the runway. As a teenager, Ivanka tried modeling. She walked in fashion shows, appeared in magazines, and posed for major brands. Her face was everywhere, but something didn't feel right. Is this what I want forever? She asked herself. The answer was no. Modeling was fun, but it wasn't her passion. Ivanka's true turning point came when she joined the family business. She started working at the Trump Organization, first in smaller roles, then managing larger projects. One of her biggest successes was helping to develop Trump hotels and luxury buildings. She negotiated deals, attended meetings, and proved she was more than just her father's daughter. She had her own ideas, her own strategies. I want to build something lasting, she often said. Then came another life-changing moment, her marriage to Jared Kushner. Their wedding in 2009 was glamorous, but the real milestone was what followed. Ivanka converted to Judaism, a decision that required dedication and soul-searching. It wasn't just for Jared, she said. It was a personal journey. This moment deepened her understanding of family, faith, and commitment. Another major turning point arrived in 2016, during Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Ivanka became a key figure in the campaign, delivering speeches, appearing at rallies, and promoting her father's vision. But the experience was intense. Reporters followed her every move. Critics questioned her involvement. She faced pressure from all sides, but she remained steady. When things get tough, she said, you can either fall apart or rise above it. After Donald Trump won the presidency, Ivanka made a controversial decision to work in the White House. As an advisor, she focused on issues like women's rights, paid family leave, and job creation. It wasn't an easy role. She faced criticism from political opponents and even from some family supporters. But Ivanka didn't back down. She saw it as an opportunity to make a difference. "I believe in action," she said. "You can't change the world by sitting still." Now let's shift to Tiffany's milestones. Her path was quieter, but no less meaningful. Her first turning point came when she released her pop single, Like a Bird, in 2011. For Tiffany, this was more than a song. It was a leap of faith. She was stepping out of the shadows, showing the world her creative side. "Music is my escape," she said. "It lets me express what I can't say out loud." But as much as she loved music, Tiffany realized she wanted a more grounded career. Her next big milestone was attending Georgetown University. There, she studied sociology and law, diving deep into topics like justice and human rights. For Tiffany, education wasn't just about getting a degree. It was about finding her purpose. She spent long nights studying, writing essays, and discussing social issues with classmates. It was during this time that she discovered her passion for law. Tiffany's involvement in Donald Trump's 2016 campaign was another key moment. Although she wasn't as visible as Ivanka, she played an important role behind the scenes. She helped with events, connected with young voters, and spoke at the Republican National Convention. Her speech was short but heartfelt. "My father has always been there for me," she said. "He's taught me to be strong, to dream big." Standing on that stage, under bright lights, was a moment Tiffany would never forget. After the campaign, Tiffany's life took another major turn: law school. She enrolled at Georgetown Law, determined to make her mark in the legal world. The workload was heavy, but Tiffany was focused. She spent hours in the library, reading case studies and preparing for exams. When she passed her first major exam, she called her mother, Marla Maples. "I did it," she said, tears of joy streaming down her face. Marla couldn't have been prouder. Then came a milestone that blended love and life: her engagement to Michael Boulos. The proposal, which happened in January 2021, was romantic and deeply meaningful. Michael had been her partner through law school, family events, and public pressure. He had seen her at her best and her worst, and still loved her unconditionally. Their engagement wasn't just about a wedding. It marked the start of a new chapter. For both Ivanka and Tiffany, these milestones weren't just events. They were lessons. Ivanka learned the power of resilience and the importance of making bold decisions. She understood that success didn't come without challenges, but challenges were what made her stronger. Tiffany, on the other hand, learned to embrace her uniqueness. She realized that she didn't need to follow in her sister's footsteps or match her family's achievements. Her success would come on her own terms. Despite their different paths, both sisters shared a common understanding. Life is full of turning points, and how you handle them defines who you are. For Ivanka, it was about leadership and family. For Tiffany, it was about creativity and self-discovery. but for both, it was about growth. Looking ahead, neither sister knows exactly what the future holds. But one thing is certain. They're ready. With the lessons they've learned, the mistakes they've made, and the milestones they've celebrated, they know they can face whatever comes next. As Ivanka once said, the journey isn't about reaching the finish line. It's about the steps you take along the way. And for Tiffany, those steps are still unfolding, one milestone at a time. Chapter 11. The Daughters' Roles. During Donald Trump's presidency. When Donald Trump became president in 2017, the world watched closely. His rise to power was dramatic, filled with both supporters and critics. But while much of the attention was on him, two important women were standing by his side: Ivanka Trump and Tiffany Trump. Their roles during his presidency were different, yet both faced challenges, surprises, and lessons that shaped their futures. Let's start with Ivanka. From the very beginning, she was front and center. She wasn't just a daughter. She was a senior advisor in the White House. This wasn't an honorary title. Ivanka took her responsibilities seriously. She focused on issues like women's rights, job creation, and family leave policies. She believed she could make a difference. But stepping into such a powerful role wasn't easy. The media followed her every move. Reporters criticized her clothing, her speeches, and even her personal life. Why is she in the White House? Some asked, but Ivanka remained calm. I'm here to work, she often said. She attended high-level meetings, discussed policies with world leaders, and even accompanied her father on diplomatic trips. One of her key achievements was helping to create the Women's Global Development and Prosperity Initiative. This program aimed to help women around the world gain access to education, jobs, and leadership opportunities. Ivanka traveled to countries like Ethiopia and Ivory Coast, meeting women who had started businesses or joined training programs. Their stories inspire me, she said during an interview. I see the power of women to change the world. But her role wasn't without controversy. Critics argued that Ivanka's involvement blurred the line between family and government. They questioned whether she had too much influence. Ivanka defended herself, saying, I am here to serve, not to gain personal benefits. Still, the pressure was intense. There were nights when she stayed awake, thinking about the headlines, the criticism, and the weight of her position. But her determination never wavered. I've learned to block out the noise, she said. I focus on what I can do. While Ivanka was making headlines, Tiffany played a much quieter role. She wasn't part of the White House team. Instead, she remained in law school at Georgetown University during most of her father's presidency. But that didn't mean she was disconnected. Behind the scenes, she supported her family in her own way. In 2016, Tiffany had stepped into the spotlight during the Republican National Convention, giving a heartfelt speech about her father. But after that, she largely stayed out of the public eye. She focused on her studies, writing legal papers, and preparing for exams. Still, She occasionally appeared at major events, like state dinners and holiday celebrations at the White House. When she did, cameras quickly captured her presence. Her most visible role came during family events and campaigns. In 2020, when Donald Trump ran for re-election, Tiffany joined rallies and delivered speeches. One speech, in particular, gained attention. Standing in front of a large crowd, she spoke passionately about free speech and individual rights. Her voice was steady, her words carefully chosen. "We must fight for the freedoms we believe in," she said. It was a powerful moment, one that reminded people that Tiffany had a voice of her own. But being part of a political family wasn't always easy for Tiffany. She faced criticism, just like her sister. Some accused her of not doing enough, while others believed she shouldn't be involved at all. Tiffany handled the pressure by staying grounded. She relied on her mother, Marla Maples, for emotional support. "Stay true to yourself," Marla often told her. And Tiffany did. One of the biggest challenges both sisters faced was the family dynamic during Donald Trump's presidency. The public often compared them. Ivanka was seen as the polished political figure, while Tiffany was viewed as more private and reserved. But despite their differences, the sisters supported each other. They attended events together, posed for family photos, and shared moments away from the cameras. Ivanka once said, "Tiffany has her own strengths. I'm proud of everything she's achieved." Tiffany's quieter role didn't mean she lacked ambition. In fact, law school helped her develop new goals. She wanted to work in law or public policy, using her education to create meaningful change. Her time in Washington gave her a deeper understanding of politics and the legal system. She observed how decisions were made, how debates unfolded, and how public opinion could shape outcomes. For Ivanka, the end of her father's presidency in 2021 marked the end of a chapter, but not the end of her public work. She reflected on what she had accomplished and what she had learned. "You can't please everyone," she said, "but you can try to do what's right." For Tiffany, the end of the presidency allowed her to step out of the shadows. She graduated from law school and began considering her next steps. Would she enter politics, or would she choose a different path? Away from the spotlight? For now, she was taking her time, exploring options, and figuring out where she could make the biggest impact. Despite the challenges they faced, both sisters gained valuable lessons. Ivanka learned that leadership required resilience. Tiffany learned that quiet strength could be just as powerful as public action. Their experiences during Donald Trump's presidency helped them grow, not just as public figures, but as individuals. As they looked to the future, they knew that their journeys were far from over. Ivanka remained passionate about women's rights and entrepreneurship. Tiffany was eager to apply her legal knowledge to real-world issues. They had taken different paths, but their shared experiences had brought them closer. As Ivanka once said, "We don't always have to be the same to support each other." And for Tiffany, those words held deep meaning. Together, they had navigated one of the most intense periods of their lives. Now, They were ready for whatever came next. Chapter 12. Looking Ahead. The Future of Ivanka and Tiffany. The sun sets over Florida's warm beaches, casting golden light on the horizon. Ivanka Trump stands on the balcony of her family's beachfront home, watching her children play in the sand. She takes a deep breath and smiles. Life has changed, but in many ways, it's just beginning. Since the end of her father's presidency in 2021, Ivanka has taken a step back from public life. She no longer appears at political events or gives speeches on major platforms. Instead, she's focused on her family, raising her 3 children with Jared Kushner in a calmer, more private setting. But stepping away from the spotlight doesn't mean she's stopped working. Behind the scenes, Ivanka has begun exploring new business ventures and philanthropic projects. One of her current passions is women's empowerment. She continues to work on initiatives that help women access education, job training, and leadership opportunities. She partners with international organizations, attending small meetings, and visiting communities where her presence isn't about fame. It's about creating real change. "I've seen what women can achieve when given the chance," she said during a recent interview. "I want to be part of that journey." But Ivanka's life isn't all work. She's learning to slow down and enjoy the simple moments, morning walks along the beach, cooking dinner with her kids, and reading bedtime stories under soft, warm light. "For so long, I was always on the move," she admitted. "Now I'm appreciating the little things." Still, the question remains, will Ivanka ever return to politics? Some say it's only a matter of time. She remains a powerful figure, with a strong following and connections across the world. Others believe she may choose a different path, one focused on entrepreneurship or humanitarian efforts. When asked directly, Ivanka often smiles and says, "I'm keeping my options open." Meanwhile, Tiffany Trump is at a different stage of life, full of possibility and excitement. In 2021, she graduated from Georgetown Law School, marking one of the biggest milestones in her life. After years of hard work, late nights, and countless exams, she finally held her diploma in hand. "It was worth every sleepless night," she said. Her mother, Marla Maples, stood by her side during the graduation ceremony, tears of pride in her eyes. Tiffany's next steps aren't fully defined, but she has plenty of dreams. She's considering a career in law, public policy, or advocacy work. Her time in law school sparked a passion for social issues, especially those related to justice and equality. She hopes to work on legal cases that focus on human rights or civil liberties. "The law can be a powerful tool for change," she once said. "I want to use it for good." But Tiffany's ambitions don't stop there. She's also exploring creative projects, including a potential book about her experiences growing up in a famous family. Writing has always been a passion for her, and she sees this as a chance to reflect on her journey. The book wouldn't just be about luxury and privilege. It would explore her personal growth, the lessons she's learned, and the moments of doubt and strength that defined her. Then, of course, There's her relationship with Michael Boulos. The couple's engagement in 2021 was a symbol of their love and commitment. They've spent the past few years traveling together, visiting family, and planning their future. Their wedding, which is expected to be both intimate and elegant, will likely bring together loved ones from across the globe. But beyond the wedding, Tiffany sees Michael as her partner in life and career. "We support each other's dreams," she said. "That's what makes us strong." Despite their differences, Ivanka and Tiffany share a common bond. Both are navigating the expectations that come with their last name while trying to forge their own identities. Ivanka, with her polished, business-minded approach, and Tiffany, with her creative and compassionate outlook, complement each other in unexpected ways. The sisters often talk about their futures during quiet family gatherings. They sit together over coffee or during walks along the beach, sharing ideas and dreams. "What's next for us?" Tiffany once asked Ivanka. "Whatever we make of it," Ivanka replied. The legacy of the Trump family will always be part of their story. But both women are determined to define their own paths. For Ivanka, that might mean launching a new company, writing a memoir, or returning to the public stage in a new role. For Tiffany, it could mean becoming a lawyer, an advocate, or a writer. The possibilities are endless, and they know that success doesn't have to look the same for both of them. In many ways, their experiences during their father's presidency prepared them for the future. They've faced criticism, public scrutiny, and moments of intense pressure. But they've also experienced moments of joy, accomplishment, and personal growth. Ivanka often says, "We've learned to be resilient." Tiffany agrees. "Every challenge has made us stronger." As they look ahead, neither sister knows exactly what the future holds, but that's what makes it exciting. They're ready to take risks, make mistakes, and discover new passions along the way. With the support of family and the lessons of their past, they believe they can achieve whatever they set their minds to. One evening, as the waves gently lap against the shore, Ivanka and Tiffany sit together on the sand, watching the stars. "Where do you see yourself in 10 years?" Tiffany asks. Ivanka smiles softly. "Happy," she replies. "That's the only plan that matters." With that, they laugh, the sound carried away by the breeze. Their journeys are far from over, and the best chapters of their lives may still be unwritten. But one thing is certain, they will write those chapters their way, with courage, passion, and the determination to create a future as bright as the stars above them.